person should ask themselves is what are they working for? Is it the money? Is it because like passion? Is it because they want to build something big, right? And the answer could be all three, and then they work towards it. So I wouldn't say like, oh, being fluid is the only way. But if one is not working out for you, taking that decision and moving on is something that you should definitely do.
Welcome to Do What You Love, the podcast where passion meets purpose. Today we have a special guest, Ms Kashmira Chawak. Ms Kashmira Chawak, very big welcome to you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I had to throw that in. So just by way to welcome you. So I know Miss Chawak from a mutual friend, Jermaine. Shout out to you. And Miss Chawak is an entrepreneur who is making it big in strategic communication, and also she is an improv artist. So I don't want to spoil any thing. Miss Chawak, maybe you can tell us about yourself and your journey as an entrepreneur.
Of course, firstly, please call me Kashmira. Ms. Chawak is too formal and
Okay.
uh, yeah, Kashmira is good. Kashmira is good. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And it's my pleasure. It's all my pleasure. Would love to tell you a bit about my journey. So, Kashmira, I have been an entrepreneur for a really long time. I've been running my business since 2016, 2017. My reasons to start off on my own were pretty accidental, actually. It wasn't a very planned decision. Back in 2012, when I moved to Singapore, my first job was to run a startup community, TIE Singapore. So I was the ED for TIE Singapore. So I was sort of thrown in amidst this startup. It was like budding at that time. So I was thrown into, the startup ecosystem of Singapore by accident in 2012. I happened to meet some really good, cool tech startups, some really cool founders, so inspiring. And just by virtue of being around them, I just learned so much. Right. And then in 20, was it 2014, I guess, one of the startups asked me if I would join them. So I'm a communications person through and through. I used to be a journalist back in India. I went on to doing communications, marketing, and then when the startup asked me, I was like itching to go back to the field that I love so much. So I became part of the founding team, ran that company for a couple of years. It did really well till it didn't, like startups do. And yeah, so we did fold that company, but the whole idea of doing something for myself sort of stayed with me. I did work with a couple of founders after. And one thing that I did realize was that every time I worked with a startup, what would happen is I would learn because, with startups, you do things, you learn, you do better, right? But every founder wanted to had their own journey and they would want to go through it on their own. So for me, it got a bit repetitive. So I sort of decided to step back, and I did other things, but in the process, I would still have a lot of my old friends, a lot of my old network coming to me for advice. And at one point, someone said, listen, you do so much advice for free. Why don't you just do it as a business? And so Storyboard 1.0 happened, where I just started off as like trying to consult a few startups, which went on to like sort of expanding to non-startup companies as well, SMEs. And like I said, I'm a communications professional through and through. So I started writing, I started doing storytelling, and then that's how the training component of my business happened. So yeah, I mean, I've had a very interesting, long up and down journey, but this is how it started. It was totally accidental, but I'm glad it happened though. Back in 2016, if someone would have given me, like, offered me a job, I would be like, okay, yes, I want a job. Please pay me money to like have something stable. But I don't think I'll do that anymore.
So I understand that you make a career and also eventually transition into entrepreneurship. So maybe you can tell us about your challenges and also was that some kind of a turning point that leads you to where you are today?
Ah. The nature of my business has definitely changed over the years. In 2016-17, when I started out as a marketing and comms, like PR consultancy, which went on to becoming a full-fledged boutique agency. So there was a time when I was like running ad campaigns, I was doing PR campaigns. I had a little team that was helping me out. So we had a whole like the whole spiel, right? But my daughter came home like in like 2021, and when that happened, unfortunately, my maternity leave was longer than I expected, and I had to move back to India for almost 10 months. When that happened, while I continued to work from there, my sales pipeline dried up, right? Because I wasn't networking people. So when I came back and when I was ready to get back to work, I realized that, listen, I have to start afresh because I did have a couple of my clients that stayed with me, a couple of retainers, but I was literally like starting from ground zero again. But it also made me think quite a lot because I come from a very comms creative background, right? And over time, I felt like I was sort of trying to meet the market need because of course, right, you want to make money, you want to run a business, but the passion aspect of it was somewhere missing. And as you know, I happen to be an improv artist. I started improv during COVID. It's totally parallel journey. I was moonlighting as an improv artist. I still do. It doesn't pay the bills, but it is a lot of fun. So I was doing improv shows. I was like playing with other people and thoroughly enjoying it. So when I was restarting, and again, I think it was more accidental because I was already doing some communication trainings. I decided to introduce some improv into the existing projects that I was doing, and it was really well received. So what started off as an experiment, like say I'm doing a storytelling workshop for 1 hour, I would do like 10 minutes of improv. Clients started coming back to me and saying, "Hey, listen, that bit the participants are really enjoying. Could you do more of it? Could we do more of improv?" So I kind of started playing with that idea. And when you've done business for a long time, you learn that you don't, at least for me, I didn't want to like go out to the market and say, "Hey, listen, here's my new website. Here's what I'm going to do with my new business." It was more to do with, let me see how many people get interested. So I started with like a credential deck instead. I think a version of which you've seen as well. So I didn't build a website. I didn't go the traditional route because I've done that once over. And I started reaching out to people I know and telling them, "Listen, this is what I'm doing. Would you be interested?" And the uptake was quite a lot, right? Like people were interested. So when I started networking, I went back to the market with this new messaging. It and so the business as I'm doing right now, it's still a communications business, but it's more training focused than more like campaign focused. And yeah, I started having a lot of fun. I started getting clients who want to do improv for their company for various reasons. And so the business, as you see today, happened a couple of years ago when I made that switch. And yeah, I am still hustling, trying to figure out if this is what is for me. But it's fun. Of course, you want to be sustainable. So it is a sustainable business. And then I do so many things all over. And yeah, it's looking good so far.
That's really good. Kudos to you because you built something out of your passion and interest. That's a major point. I mean, people often venture into a business or entrepreneurship, not knowing which direction to go. So perhaps you can tell me, should entrepreneurs stick to one niche, and how do you, decide that this is it? I'm going to do what's best for me, or maybe I should cater to the audience. How do you, how do you feel, an aspiring entrepreneurship come to a decision, to a
Right.
decision?
Yeah. I it's a great question, and I also think a lot of people do it differently and do it beautifully. So for some people, entrepreneurship is like just there's just one route, right? Like just doing a startup the very conventional way, tech startup, you raise funding, you do the whole spiel, you exit. So that's a journey that people have, and it's great. But what people don't realize is there's just so much sweat, tears, emotions, work, strategy that goes into building a company like that, right? And if it is for you, if that's how you see you want to change the world, fantastic, right? Which is where I was when I started out. And I did it once, and my founders then are doing amazing things. They love doing startups in its raw form, and they are still doing it with like different teams, and they're so happy, and I can see they're growing and amazing, right? Like, so that is the journey for them. For me, and I think everyone needs to ask that question, right? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? And what does entrepreneurship look like to you? So, uh, for someone like me, like being creative is, if I'm not being creative, if I'm not being like, if I'm not playing with like things, and if I'm not having fun, the purpose of working is defeated. And this is also with the jobs I have done in the past. Like, I would walk away from a job if it's not fun for me anymore, right? Is that the ideal way to do it? No. But what I do compensate, like, because I know it's not for everybody, right? Like, I work really hard, for example. So for me to make my passion work, if I have to put in 22 hours a day, I will. So that's my compromise that I am willing to put to, like, it's a barter system, right? For some people, they don't want to give that time. For them, time is precious. They want to work their 9 hours. So they're okay to work for other reasons because time is precious to them, whether it's with family, whether it's for yourself. Like, I'm a mom, as you know, but I still take out that time because it is a barter, and I have to figure out ways to make it up for my daughter. But I do it because for me, if I'm not doing something that makes me happy, then it doesn't work. But also, I live in Singapore, and as an expat in Singapore, like, making my business sustainable is super important as well. So I also have to be very intelligent about how I take my clients, how I make money, right? So these two things are, I cannot compromise on, which is making money, and which is being passionate about what I do. So that is becomes the focus of how I now approach my business. It took me a long time to get there, to figure out what works for me. Because earlier I would just take up any projects for money, but then I was not happy. Then I would do projects for passion, but there is no money, which means then I end up taking up projects again that don't make me happy, right? So it's a very individual. I think what a person should ask themselves is, what are they working for? Is it the money? Is it because, like, passion? Is it because they want to build something big, right? And the answer could be all three, and then they work towards it. So I wouldn't say like, oh, being fluid is the only way. But if one is not working out for you, taking that decision and moving on is something that you should definitely do or think about.
It's a good one. I mean, this is something that our audience will definitely appreciate starting out the business. What do you think is the key skills and the traits that a person should have when starting out, or maybe if they already in the journey? What
Right.
do you think it is?
Yeah. So I think clarity on why you're starting your business, which ties back to my previous point, is really important. Because, and clarity at that moment, this will change. You would think your reality is A when you start your business, and maybe it's different few months or few years down the line, and that's okay. But why you're starting out and what does that entail? Having that clarity is really important, because I see a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs starting out with a very a romantic idea of entrepreneurship, like, oh my God, I want my own time back, I want flexibility, I don't want a boss, and I think those are all wrong reasons to start a business, right? Or with a very ideal, like, oh my God, I want to change the world, which is fine, but there are many steps before you get there. So having clarity on how you will get there is super important. And second is adaptability, because if you are not willing to adapt, and if you are not willing to, like, change what you are doing to suit, again, the market, yourself, depends on what your focus is, you are not going to succeed, right? So these are two things that I think any new entrepreneur should be ready for. Know what you're getting into, and be ready to change, or at least be very clear about what you're willing to change, right? Maybe there are some things you're not willing to change, and that's okay. But be very clear that I would rather close my business than change this. And once you do that, you already are ready to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. Yeah.
So let's talk about Storyboard Strategic Communications, which is your current business. So how did that come about? And maybe you can share something about it.
Yeah, for sure. So like I like to call it, storyboard strategic communications, storyboard 2.0. I already shared the story about 1.0, and then me going on my break, and when I come back. I, like I said, I'm an improv artist. I love doing improv. I started introducing a bit of it into the work that I've been doing, and over the last couple of years, it's found its focus. So what we do is I introduce, or rather, I use improv techniques to help professionals communicate better, teams to work better with each other, and just being more authentic when it comes to storytelling. So my big vision is to sort of get professionals in workplaces to be able to communicate, work with each other more seamlessly, to be able to be more authentic, and just kind of bring the art of play back in the life of adults. Because as children, we do so much playing, right? The kids are, and again, a lot of it is inspired by my daughter because, um, I would tell her, listen, or I tell her, you can be what you want to be. And then I see that as an adult, I'm so caught up. I'm not so free as I teach my daughter to be. And kids are like so imaginative. They can do so many different things because there's nothing holding them back. So the idea is, I know you cannot do that at a workplace. You cannot like not hold back and play all the time. But could we give 2 hours to a team where they're not held back by anything? And what does that look like, right? What does learning look like when you are out there using your hands, your feet? So my workshops are very different from traditional workshops. There are no slides. There is no. We do an open area, 2 hours. Everyone is on their feet. And even if someone has a special need or additional request, we make that happen, and then we create an environment where a team can come together, have fun, do do things, and learn from each other. And it's so much fun. Like at the end of 2 hours, barriers are broken, people are laughing. It ranges from like something as simple as team bonding exercise, but also unconscious biases or negotiation skills. Like, so there's an array of communication topics, or array of employee communications and engagement topics that you can address using improv techniques. So that's what I have been doing.
That's a very great component, especially in today's corporate world or even business, where you need to engage with your network, your clients, and I think it's great that you are starting this out for specific group of clients or customers. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, maybe you can tell me, because you're doing this full time, and looking back, what is the one thing you wish you have learned, or maybe from the start, or maybe you have learned along the way. Maybe you can share us
Yeah,
to
yeah.
us.
Okay, I think for me, it's like saying no. Because when I started out, I was also like, I felt like when you're an entrepreneur or like a new business owner, you feel like you need to say yes to everything because you need the work, you need the logos, you need the projects to survive, right? And over time, sometimes you end up with saying, like, basically spending a lot of time, energy, resources to trying and making one client happy that's never going to be happy, right? And only because you've not said no to them because you're worried if you don't get that one client, then that's the end of the world, right? Over time, I am better now at assessing the time it's going to take versus the returns I'm going to get versus the satisfaction I'm going to get working with the client, right? So if the instinct tells you this may not be the right client for you, uh, if it's way too little money for too much work, sure. I mean, you will only know this when you do a few projects and you understand. But the minute you start understanding this, then listen, this is not going to be worth it. Be ready to say no, because good things will come. And if good things are not coming, then you are in the wrong space anyway, right? So learning whether you're in the right space or not will be quicker. How to pivot will be faster, and what can you do better, you will figure out much faster if you say no to clients that are not sort of like in sync with what you want to do. But I know it's easier said than done. I still struggle with it, but I am now better. Like I'm okay to walk away even with like big brands if it's not in sync with what I want to offer. Because I do know if I say yes right now, it's going to be 3 to 4 to 5 months of like just struggle, unhappiness, and you lose as entrepreneur, right? Sometimes we feel like our time is we don't put value on our time, which is
Yeah.
what you need to do, which is put value on our time as well. So if I'm working 22 hours, am I making returns in some form from the client is very important as well. So I think saying no would be my number one thing I have learned over time.
So this weekend we celebrate International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to you too. And what is your message to aspiring female entrepreneurs
Right.
who want to making it big? So maybe you can share to our
For
audience.
sure, I would say just get started. If you have a business in mind, if this is something you want to do, whether it's a startup with a mission, whether you want to start your own consultancy, I would say have some clarity. Go meet as many people as you can, because Singapore is a fantastic place to run business. There are so many tools available to you. It's easy. You can go online and register a business tomorrow if you're qualified for it, right? So there's no bureaucracy holding you back. What you do need to do is meet as many people as you can, but uh, to take information, but trust your gut and see where you want to be. So it's like don't let people tell you what to do, but let people share their experiences because you can learn from them very quickly. So I would say meet as many people as you want, create a very basic business plan, with all the AI that's available to you right now. ChatGPT can create one for you like overnight. So it's a fine balance between like not overthinking, but also not thinking you can take over the world in one day. So there's a fine balance, and I think as women, we anyways I so if a person comes to me and they ask me what do I do, I will say think this through. But as women, I think we anyways overthink sometimes. We want everything to be perfect, and it's never going to be like 100% perfect. So as long as you're confident, please go meet people, start your business, and see where it takes you. And the other thing is, like, again, don't undersell yourself. This is something that I did for a long time, thinking, listen, uh, who would want to give me business? I don't know. And then I've learned this from my male peers that like if they don't want to give you your business, then it's not because of your worth, or it could be because of your skill and then you upskill. It could be because of so many different reasons, right? So don't try and undersell yourself. Get your value from people, and eventually it will work out. So yeah.
So what's next for you, Kashmira? Do you have any exciting plans in the horizon?
Oh, so thank you for asking. So I am just excited because, like I said, over the last 1.5 years, I've been building my clientele. I think I'm finally ready to sort of put it together and go out there in hordes. Because this business is very different from what I was doing before. Because my earlier business, I did get a lot of individuals, like smaller companies, and there are so many that need marketing help. But with my new business, I don't need like 50 clients. I need 10 really good ones. So I'm in the process of defining what that would look like. How do I reach out to them? Trying to make, again, like it's a world of connections. So trying to get that in and make sure I have that by the end of the year. But I'm also teaching, I'm doing this. I do individual consulting with individuals on storytelling. So there's a whole bucket of things, I think. But that's again my style. It defines me. If I'm doing one thing, I get really bored. So there's like a whole plethora of things. I'm just hoping every year gets a little better than the last. Looks like it will. So happy with that.
Ms. Kashmira, thank you so much for sharing your personal stories, your insights, and also sharing the valuable takeaways to our audience. I wish you all the best in your entrepreneurship journey. And of course, to our audience out there, don't forget to check out Ms. Kashmira's socials in the description box below. And Ms. Kashmira, for those who are interested to join your workshops, maybe you can share us some things about it.
I will. I will definitely send it across. Do add it to our. So follow me on social. So apart from what I do with companies, I also run once in a couple of months. I run like a fun workshop, which is like for a very small fee, like $20 odd, just a fun improv workshop for just adults who want to take a break, come disconnect from the world for 2 hours and have fun. So please do follow me because I put all my information there, and I would love to connect and see you in one of my workshops.
That's great to hear.
And Sophie, you should come to one too.
Oh, I will. I would definitely
I'm
believe
definitely going to make that
privileged
happen.
to do so. Yes, of course. And yes, for those out there, do check it out. I mean, it's something fun, and of course, you get to network and of course, build your confidence communicating.
Yeah,
Kashmira, okay,
yeah.
everyone out
Thank
there.
you so much.
Thank you so much to you too. So don't forget to check out Miss Kashmira, and of course, if you find value and enjoy today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow for more valuable insights, and reviews and tutorials. Until then, I'll see you again. By the way, if you have some time to spare, please fill the survey questions on the description box below. This is a great way for me to find out what are the content that you guys vibe with, what are the topics that I should run through. So I really appreciate if you can just answer the questions below. Thank you so much.